So I started mountain bike riding when I was 12 and worked in the bicycle business for a long time as well, and just been loving riding my mountain bike ever since. And now I'm the team director, head coach of the McQueen High School mountain bike team. I'm married to Pamela, and we have 2 boys. Zachary is 14 and Braden is 11. In August of 2021, we all got sick. The boys couldn't go to school, and I was able to, work from home for the week, and I would go for a walk every day. And the COVID part didn't seem very bad at all. I felt like, oh, this is pretty easy. Pamela and the kids seemed to have it worse than I did for that first week, but then they got better, and I just kept getting worse. The doctors told me to start watching my oxygen level, and it just kept going down and down and down to the point where the doctor said, it's time to go to the emergency room.
It was probably 10:30 at that point, and we made the decision to go.
I got checked in and, still actually felt better the next day being on the oxygen. As long as I was on the oxygen, I felt like I was doing okay, but the numbers were not showing that I was getting better. I was actually getting worse.
He texts me, results are I've got pneumonia, 5 days of IV antibiotics, and then I'll be home. We can do this, 5 days, and I'm counting. That was a Tuesday, so I'm like, okay, Sunday, he'll be home Sunday. We'll go to 6 o'clock service. That was what was going on in my head. I never, ever thought that I wouldn't see him for 34 days.
So things every day were just progressively going downhill, and the doctor was starting to talk about me having to go on the ventilator. And it was probably 4:30 one day. The nurse said, "You're going to go on the ventilator. The doctor will be here at 6 o'clock." And I said, "I'm not going on the ventilator."
I'm like, what? No. This is not happening. This is not happening. You are not getting on a vent.
I called my best friend, and who was also my health advocate. And he said, "If you don't want to go on the ventilator, you're not going to have to. I'll make some phone calls."
We had talked to the doctor. We got all of the data, the statistics, the pros, the cons, the worst case, the best case, and everything in between. And it wasn't good.
The doctor's coming in a minute, and my phone rings, and it's Pastor Dan on the phone. He said, "Will, I want you to listen to me very closely. I know you have to make a decision, and I think you already know what that decision is." And immediately I knew what I had to do. And I got back on the phone with Pamela and Jerry and said, "I'm going on the ventilator, and everything's going to be okay." Because I had been praying and praying and praying, especially for the last hour and a half. And that's what I was hearing was, "You're going to go on the ventilator." And when Pastor Dan called, it was like a miraculous phone call. And I knew as soon as he said those words, I knew what I needed to do.
I had to let him. It ultimately was his choice. He was the one laying there, not me.
My biggest concern was, I don't want to remember the ventilator. I don't want to know what's going on when I'm on the ventilator. And he said, you won't know, you'll be sedated. And so they sedate me, and all of a sudden I wake up and I'm on the ventilator, and it is the most uncomfortable thing that I have ever experienced in my life. And I was able to communicate with the doctor, and he was able to increase the medications to knock me out. And then the next thing I know, I'm waking up and asking how long have I been out on the ventilator, and they said 2 weeks.
And then they would put the phone up to his ear because he could hear me, and I would pray over him. And I've never prayed over him before. My prayers were sometimes just God, because I knew that he knew what my prayer was, and I didn't have the energy or the strength to say it. I got a text from him in the morning, and then it was weird because I didn't hear from him for a while. I get a call at 10 o'clock from the nurse asking if I wanted to FaceTime with him because he was extubated. And I was like, yes. Gosh, yes. And it's the first time I got to see his face in 2 weeks. He was still pretty out of it, but there he was.
After I woke up from the ventilator, I had to relearn how to do everything. I couldn't even sit up without getting dizzy, let alone eat anything. So it was every day a little bit, sit up for a little bit, eat a little bit. I was still just, praying, talking to God. That's all I was doing the whole time. All I wanted to do when I was in the hospital was be outside and go for a walk. And I had to meet certain requirements before they would let me out of the hospital. So that was my focus, was just these little things like, can I walk a very short distance? Can my oxygen level stay at a specific level while I'm doing that? And those were the prayers so that I could get home. The church organized a prayer day at the hospital that I was at, and I was on the 5th floor, and so I couldn't see out the window. It felt like I could hear the prayers. I could hear you all praying for me. The nurse came in and I said, "Can you hear my church? My church is outside. Do you hear them praying for me?" And they thought I was crazy, I think. I remember talking to Pamela on the phone, and we were crying, when we heard the news that I was going to go home. One of the most amazing experiences ever was just being outside in the car, driving home. It was awesome. Coming home was still really hard. I had lost 40 pounds. We still needed help getting into the house. It took me about 2 weeks before I could get up and around the house by myself, even with the walker. And then I was still on oxygen for about another month. I was able to slowly wean off of that, be going for walks outside every day with my oxygen on. My goal was to get back on my bike, outside riding in 6 months and be back to normal in a year. And I was out on my bike, I think, after 4 months. There's only a 10% chance of survival going onto the ventilator. And then after that, now seeing people who have also been on the ventilator, I haven't met anybody that's 100% recovered either. So I don't know what the statistics are on that, but I may be a 1%er.
I've always been on this path of getting closer to God, but I've never been as close to Him as I am now and as I was going through that whole thing. I worship Him differently, just out of my way. Like, I'm gonna worship. And it is true what they say, that these trials bring us closer to God.
Over the last year, I can really see, even before getting sick, all the pieces of the puzzle that He was moving to set it up for me, I think, to be sick and to go through that trial, to help me remove good things to make room for the great things. I don't think I was quite there yet, so I had to have a pretty epic experience where all I could do is rely on Him. There was nothing left. And that's what I did. What I've learned is really just to pray about everything. My stress level is less, my anxiety is less. He's shown up in ways that He probably has my whole life, but I see even the smallest little things now.